I'm Bobbi Fisher, and this is my Aesthetically Awkward Podcast, a show where we dive into all things aesthetics, health, wellness, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Please consult your own healthcare provider before making any decisions in your personal health journey. Now let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the awkward pilot episode of the Aesthetically Awkward Podcast. This is me sitting here trying to introduce myself without putting on a persona, hiding behind a title. Not the founder behind Luxe Lift, not just a nurse practitioner, just me, Bobbi, a 37-year-old woman. I'm still trying to figure out everything that life has thrown at me so far. I think people assume that once you reach a certain age, once you've checked off the boxes, the career, the house, the family, you magically become put together and confident. Again, I'm 37, but I'm still learning, still evolving, still stumbling through things, trying to figure out what it is I'm supposed to be doing. I didn't grow up confident. I didn't grow up knowing who I was or what I wanted to be. I was awkward way before this podcast ever had a name. I was the quiet kid, the observer, the wallflower, often blended into the background best as I could, which was difficult as a girl who's about 6 foot tall and has always been, for lack of better words, curvy. It was especially awkward for me during those formative years. I had PCOS, weight struggles, severe acne, fought a lot with depression and anxiety, all the things that chip away at a person's confidence, especially well before I understood what hormones were doing in my body. And then, I reached adulthood where I had a better understanding of what was happening. I had issues with infertility, multiple failed IVF attempts, multiple miscarriages, the grief that comes along with that, wanting something so badly and having your own body stand in the way. Those experiences shape you. They make you softer in some places, harder in others, might teach you some empathy the hard way. Before nursing, I was actually a social worker. I worked for the Division of Family Resources. It surprises a lot of people, but it makes sense when you look at my personality. I always wanted to take care of people. I had that drive. I've always wanted to be a fixer. And I enjoy talking to people, learning about their stories, their challenges, trauma, goals. But that particular career path really chipped away at me. Eventually, I realized that I needed to find a different way to help support people. And my mom had always told me I should go be a nurse. And the more I researched it, I decided that was the path I wanted to follow. So I went to nursing school. Started with my associate's degree, checked that box. Worked as an LPN first, and then a registered nurse. Went back and got my bachelor's degree. I've always worked with adults specifically, never had an interest in pediatrics. I eventually went on to get my master's degree, got my nurse practitioner certification and licensure. I really don't know how to sit still. I've been a lifelong learner. And right now I'm actually delving into a postmaster's certificate. This one is a little bit different, and I might talk about it in another episode, but it's going to be something that enhances what I'm able to do at Luxe Lift, and maybe even beyond that, have a bigger impact in our community. And again, I'm a lifelong learner. I enjoy learning, so this is another way to keep my mind sharp. None of how I got here was laid out and perfectly planned. It wasn't in a 5-year plan I had written. It wasn't clean, easy, or obvious to me at any point. I didn't have a roadmap, didn't have a mentor that was truly guiding me along the way, although I have had a lot of people that I've leaned on and consulted with and trained with along the way. I kept choosing the step that felt right to me, even when I wasn't sure how it was going to play out, and sometimes it backfired. But eventually, Luxe Lift happened. It wasn't necessarily by accident, but again, it wasn't perfectly laid out in front of me. I didn't grow up dreaming of aesthetics. I certainly didn't know what Botox or filler was as a child. And then, coming into adulthood, not until my late 20s did I really understand what Botox was, what filler was, what could be done with lasers, microneedling. A lot of it was really taboo at that time. Walking around with my own insecurities and doing my own research on what I could do to heal my acne scars, to help with the fine lines I was starting to see form on my skin. That's really where my interest in aesthetics came from. And then I figured out it was beyond that. Like I could impact people beyond just those superficial layers. And that sparked a passion for me. It really did. I wanted to be able to provide services to everybody. There was a need in our community. There were no specific med spas or, medical aesthetic clinics only at the time I opened Luxe Lift 5 years ago. I started with a rented suite, eventually rented an exam room in an existing clinic, and then went on to rent my own clinic for a few years before we outgrew that and got our current building. We've more than tripled in size between square footage of the building and staff. So it's definitely been a long road to get here. Lots of growth. It's taken a lot of grit, so many sleepless nights, so much financial stress, creative problem solving, lots of trials and errors, lots of, I don't know if I can keep doing this, but all of the positive feedback is what's kept me going. More than just a business, we have created a space where we feel like our clients are our patients, our friends. We see these people returning multiple times a month or a year, and we know them. We know about their spouses. We know about their children. We know the big events that they're planning for. We celebrate their victories. We cry at their losses. We've developed our own little community. So why the podcast? Was it really needed? What is the purpose of it? What's it going to do for Luxe Lift? Well, honestly, it wasn't built for Luxe Lift. It was built for me. I wanted to do this podcast. I've enjoyed listening to podcasts that have really helped me along the way. I listen to a lot of finance podcasts, a lot of marketing podcasts, aesthetics specific shows, and a lot of medical shows. And that's how I like to learn and stay connected. And I figured maybe somebody out there would find some inspiration or just some entertainment in the podcast. And it's not meant to be a specific aesthetics only show. I want to talk about, the emotional toll that entrepreneurship can take on you, messy parts of wellness and hormones, truth about weight loss, grief that comes along with infertility, challenges of being a mom while running a business, awkward dynamics in the aesthetic industry from gatekeeping, competition, egos, mean girl energy, all the moments that shaped me into the provider who I am today. It's for anyone who's maybe felt out of place in their body, in their specific industry, in their life. Anybody who's ever tried to navigate confidence, growth, healing, try to reinvent themselves. Anyone who's ever taken a look at another successful person and wondered, how did they get there? How do I get there? So I'm going to talk about a little bit of everything. My story, my health journey, my mistakes, all the hard lessons, things I wish somebody would have shared with me that could have made it a little bit easier, the decisions that nearly broke me, moments that made me change my trajectory. It's not going to be a polished show, and it's not meant to be. It's just meant to be something that's honest, human, fun, maybe a little uncomfortable here and there. Real conversations usually are. So if it sounds like something that might be of interest, I hope you stick around for future episodes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the story behind who I am before we dive into those deeper topics that are going to be coming up. I'm excited. I'm nervous, still figuring it out. I'm still going to show up anyway. And that is the type of energy I hope this podcast brings to your life. Stay tuned. Episode 2 will be coming at you next week. And that's where we're going to start diving into some real conversations.